Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Martin Engelbrecht. I am a Senior Application Engineer in the Project Delivery team. Today we're going to talk about how to prepare your ProjectWise environment to utilize Project Insights. But before we start talking about that, let's first see what is Project Insights. It's several dashboards displaying metadata extracted from ProjectWise Design Integration, as well as from ProjectWise Deliverables Management. It's an automated reporting system that's going to provide you with an up-to-date view of your design project and performance and status. It's going to offer you best practice monitoring that's going to help your project leaders to leverage new perspectives and track digital behaviors. It provides you near real-time analytics and trends, giving your project team a rich view into the present, past, and even potential future project performance. So what is the benefit for Project Insights? Project Insights is going to offer your client organizations the ability to track overall engineering project status and project overtime. It's going to allow you to search for project bottlenecks and perform the root cause analysis. It's going to give you the ability to filter deliverable document status by vendor organizations to compare delivery speed and quality metrics. You'll be able to see which project deliverable documents are taking longer to review and or fix. You'll be able to calculate predicted project finish dates by understanding the number of non-accepted documents and how much time and review cycles it typically takes to accept. For the vendor organizations, you're going to have very similar facilities and capabilities. It's going to help you perform earned value calculations by tracking how many deliverable documents have already been accepted by the client. So you'll be able to see exactly what your acceptance trends are. Understand the remaining scope. Which documents are not yet reviewed or haven't been fixed or haven't been accepted and require rework. It's going to compare remaining versus project schedules to help adjust project team resource appropriately. That means that you'll be able to see where you are in the project, how much work has been done, how much is still outstanding, what do I have to do. See project bottlenecks on client or vendor organization side, so you'll have an overall view of the project. So what does Project Insights look like? We have an overview page that gives you an overview of the entire project, all displaying the metadata, and it is dynamically updated. So you can filter according to dates or document types or even document subtypes or even workflow states. And as you click on each of the items, the system will update the screen to show you information relevant to that specific object that you have selected. It's going to offer you approval trends so you can see where your bottlenecks are and see why those bottlenecks are happening. Again, filtering according to the required information that you need. You're going to be able to track your outgoing deliverables. How many have been sent? How many have been reviewed? How many of them have been accepted? What are the task average durations or the acceptance trends? You're going to be able to track all the incoming deliverables. Again, how many have been received? How many have been approved, rejected? How many have been sent for rework? Again, filtering everything according to the requirements that you need. ProjectWise is a blank canvas. You can't just install it and start working with it like you would, for instance, the Office suite. There's specific planning that needs to take place, And the reason for that is that we can configure it to your requirements. We're going to use your business processes. So we're going to look at your business processes and we're going to customize the system so that it works according to your business processes, or as close as possible to your business processes. The reason why we do this is it's going to complement the way you work. We don't want your users to have to learn a new system and work completely different to what they're used to. We want them to be able to work exactly the way they're used to right now with the least amount of disruption. By providing them a familiar environment, the adoption of the system is a lot easier, and also the training on the new system is a lot less as well. We create a scope of work document which we are going to develop. We're going to give it to you as the user. You're going to look through it, and if you're happy, then we actually start the deployment and the configuration. So the scope or information gathering is the most important. And what we actually look at during the whole scoping is we look at the platform. And we're going to discuss all of these items in a little bit more in detail. The environments, your document coding for your drawings and your general office documents as well. We're going to look at the workflows, which is part of your business process. We're going to look at your versioning and your revisioning. We're also going to look at your work areas and your folder structures. We're going to look at your users, groups, and lists. Then the most important is the access control. And then we're also going to talk about templating some of your information. So let's talk about platform. Selecting your platform is very important. And here we've got two options that you can use, either hosted or on-premise. So what's the difference between the two? If you go hosted, then basically the Bentley Managed Services team will provision all the servers that's required. We'll set up the operating systems, the SQL databases. We will do all the backups of the system, and we will make sure that from an operating system level, all the updates are done. And as and when new versions of our software comes out, all that you as user does, you create a service ticket and you say, please upgrade me to the latest version, and we will do all of that for you. If you decide to go on-premise, well, that's a little bit of a different approach. Basically, you as the user will have to provide the servers and the operating system and the CALs. You decide what database server you want to use, whether it's SQL or Oracle. Your IT infrastructure team will have to do all the backups and do all the operating system level updates as well. Something else that we're also going to look at is how many remote offices are there. Is it just the office where we're going to do the implementation, or do you have remote offices around the country or the world that you want to include as well? And as a follow-up to that, will all of these remote offices use caching servers? And a caching server basically makes the check-in, check-out of files a lot quicker on the system. Here is an example infrastructure diagram of how we generally set up ProjectWise. You'll see under the data center, we've got around about 5 servers. In the DMZ, we've got the web services gateway, and then the ProjectWise 365 services, which are cloud-based, and then we've got our external users as well as our remote offices. And you'll see in the remote office, we also indicate the caching server with the cached information over there. So this is a typical diagram of how we would set it up in the hosted environment, but we can also do the exact same thing if you decide to go on-premise. The ProjectWise environment, this is really a database table that stores metadata pertaining to that specific document or to that work area. So the first things that we look at is the type of environment. Is it going to be based on the ISO 19650, or are we going to do a customized environment for you? The next thing that we want to look at is under customized, we want to look at what the work area properties are going to be. In other words, your project properties, project number, project name, project location, basically any metadata related to the project. And the next one that we're going to look at is your document properties as well. How many environments are you going to need? Do you only want to use one environment that is over the entire system? Or do you want to look at something a little bit maybe more discipline specific? A very easy way of starting off the whole process of looking at the environments is we look at your CAD title blocks and also your Office documents, headers and footers. That'll give us an idea and a starting off point to discuss your metadata or your environment fields. What type of field will it be? Will it be a text field where a user will have to type something in? Or is it going to be a pick list? Is it going to be auto-populated? Is it a mandatory field or can I leave it blank? We also look at the approval fields, and we also look at which fields populate the title blocks. Now, once we've got the project environment, the next thing that we're going to look at, and it's related to your environment, is your document code. The document code is basically how your drawing number or your document number is going to be put together. So we look at how many document codes. We can have one document code per environment. We also look at this from your user requirement. Document code is made up of your environment fields. We concatenate them together and we give it a sequential number at the end of the code. The next thing that we're going to look at as part of your business process is to implement a workflow. It can be customized according to your specific business processes. We can have multiple workflows, but we can only set up one workflow per folder. Different workflows for each discipline, for instance. What we also do is we design and define rules for each workflow state. So we can check for empty fields. We can also populate fields. Depending on your workflow process, we can also set the version and revision for you automatically through the same set of rules. We also set access control on each workflow state. Once we know all of this, what we want to do is we want to understand how you do your versioning and revisioning. And this is basically done through our rules engine as well. And here's some examples of versioning that is used in the industry. It works very closely with the workflow and the rules. The next thing we're going to look at is your taxonomy. The folder structure is very dynamic, and generally, again, we design the folder structure according to your requirements. We want to take your existing folder structure and pull it into the system. To make life easier, we can create a template from your folder structure as well. Depending on your user rights or your access control for each user, you can go and modify the template or the folder structure at any time. We define the work area project folder as well, and we set up the work area properties. The next thing that we want to do is we want to understand how your users, groups, and lists are going to work. We're going to look at the user type. Is this a standard user? Is it an administrative user? Is it a super user? That type of thing. And depending on the user type, we will configure that user settings in a different way. Are we going to synchronize your users from the Active Directory? And that's not just your users, but we can synchronize your groups as well. Or if you decide, no, we want to federate your Active Directory with our Bentley IMS, which is kind of our own Active Directory. If you don't want to do that and you want to create each user and group manually, then we define those groups for you. We define the user lists, and that can be for access control or for mailing lists. And access control is defined on individual users, user groups, or user lists, or a combination of all of them. Access control is defined on data source level, or we can do it on a work area level, which is the general way of doing it. We can do it on a folder level, we can do it on a document level, or we can do it on a workflow level. We can take all of this and we can create templates. We're going to define the template type. Is it an Office template? We're going to make sure that the attribute exchange is set up for that. We're going to look at your document or the drawing templates, and we're going to do the title block integration. We're going to look at your work areas. We're going to, on the work area, we're going to set up the folder structure, the access control for you directly from there as well. So basically, once you've got your work area template all set up with your access control, it's very easy to create a new project, and the access control and folders and everything like that, workflows and all of that is already set up. After all that planning and the scope document that was created, there will be negotiation with you as the user to make sure that what is in that document is correct and exactly what you want them to do. Once that acceptance has been done, then what's going to happen is that the system is going to be installed on the platform that you decided on. It's going to be configured, and everything is going to be set up the way that the document describes it. From there, the next step in the process is that there's going to be a user acceptance test. So basically, we're going to present to you, the user, what has been configured, and we're going to take you through all the different business processes that you highlighted in the scope of work document. And we're going to make sure that you're happy with every single item. If there are some changes that needs to be made, then those changes will be made, and then the user acceptance will carry on. Once that user acceptance tests have been approved by you, the user, we're going to provide you with some training. That means we're going to train your administrators how to maintain the system, add new users, add users to groups, add new groups, access control, all that kind of thing. But we're also going to train your users on how to use the system, how to create documents, how to take them through the workflows, all that type of thing. Once all of that is done, you're going to be ready to start using the system. And to do that, you're going to have to do a couple of steps. The first one will be to create your first connected project. Then you're going to create your first work area, and you're going to create the association between the two. Once that association has been done, you're going to activate Project Insights. And this is a multi-step process that takes around about 8 to 12 hours initially. After that, it is smooth sailing, and the system will dynamically update on a scheduled basis. So the steps is to upload the data. So there's going to be a synchronize of the metadata, and there's going to be a synchronize of the initial data that's in the system. And this is going to take about 8 hours. Then it's going to allow you to map the attributes. In other words, what fields do you want to use in Project Insights to display the metadata? And once all of that has been done, your users will be ready to start working. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take you through how to create your connected project, how you're going to create your work area, how you do the association. So we're going to basically go through a demo now of how to do all of this. To create your first connected project, the steps will be to open up your favorite web browser. We support Chrome, Firefox, and Microsoft Edge. And you're going to navigate to connect.bentley.com. When you get to that portal, you're going to either register an account if you don't already have one, or you're going to log in as a specific user. So I'm going to log in here as my own user, and it's going to take me to the Connect Center. It's going to ask me to authenticate first. In the Connect Center, you're going to have the facility of creating a new project. You can do this in a number of ways. You can go to Projects and select the New Projects button, I'm going to select this plus over here, which will take me to the register a project. Here I'm going to fill in the relevant information, and I'm going to press save, and it's going to create my new project. So in this case, I'm going to create a new project with a project number. Now this can be anything you want, up to 36 characters. So it's totally how you want to format your project number. You give it a project name. You're going to fill in the relevant information of your industry and the project type. You're going to fill in your engineering location. You're going to enter and choose your specific time zone. You're going to choose the data center where you want the information to be drawn from. And you'll see here, this is the list of all the features and all the data centers that we currently support. And if there's a dot, then it is in that data center. I've selected the UK South because I want to use the one that is closest to me. And then your billing country, again, the closest to me. So you can set the status to trial. So this is just for testing purposes. Active when it's an active project, or inactive when you don't want it to be used. And then you can also select the team management for external. If you turn this on, then external people will be able to access this if you give them access. So let's register this project. It warns you about the external people. You go yes, and it will now go and create and register my new project. I'm going to add it as a favorite. Just makes it a lot easier to find it when it's done. So that is creating your connected project. Now we're going to go into ProjectWise Explorer, and we're going to create the new work area. So I'm going to select new area from the root folder of where I want the project to be, or the work area. And the wizard is going to prompt me for some information. Now previously we spoke about templates. Here you'll see all the templates that I've already set up and that I can use in my production area. So I'm going to choose the project template, and now I've got a whole lot of options that I can use. I could have used a previous project as template for my new project. And in that case, I would possibly want to copy the documents and components. In this case, it's a blank template, so there are no documents and components. So I'm just going to bring in the subfolders and sub-working areas. And under advanced, I'm going to make sure that it brings through all the resources as well as all the access control, etc. So I'm going to go next, and I'm going to give this work area a name. And the name is basically going to be the same. In my case, I prefer to make it the same as the connected project, just to keep that continuity. And here is where I'm going to link this to my connected project. I select the choose button, and it is going to bring up this dialog box for me. And in this dialog box, it is going to list all the connected projects that is associated with my organization. In this case, it's selected all. I'm going to change this to favorites. And under favorites, you'll see there is the new connected project that I created earlier. I'm going to select the associate. I'm not going to change anything else and click on finish. What's going to happen now is it's going to build the work area for me from that project template that I selected. It's going to create all the folders, etc. And then it is going to make the association to the connected project, all done automatically for me. This could take a while depending on the amount of folders that is in your project template folder. Yeah, you can see that it's now starting to create the folders, and it gives us a progress indicator of how we are doing. And there we go. The project or the work area has been created. Click OK, and it will now take us and highlight that new work area that has been created. And there we go. there is our new work area, and the green icon shows that it is associated with a connected project. To see that it has been done correctly, if we go to its properties and we go to ProjectWise Project, you will see that it is associated with the correct connected project in the cloud. After creating the connected project and the work area and making the association, the last step in the process to be able to get dashboards about your project is to go to Project Insights and to turn it on. It's not turned on by default. We give you the option of whether you want to use it or not. So select on Project Insights, and it's going to take you to the screen where you can turn it on. So click on Turn On, and it is now going to provision the information in the database, and then we're going to start that multiple step process. So we're going to select Configuration, and now you'll see that it's going to say we are at step number 1, where we're going to set up the data upload. Now, that is something that would have been done during the setup and the configuration. If you had selected to host it, then our managed services will do it. Set all of that up. If you decided to do it on premise, then during the setup and configuration, that piece of software would have been installed already, and it's now just a case of waiting for that software to synchronize the data and upload the data into the system, which will be at step number 2, and then around about 8 hours later, we'll be ready for step number 3. Eight hours later, when you come back to your project and you go to Project Insights, this is what you're going to get. So basically what has happened is that the upload service has synchronized all the metadata fields, and it's been completed, and now the system is ready for you to configure. Simply click on the Configure button, and you're going to be presented with a whole lot of options. The first option over here is for you to map certain fields from the newly configured system to the fields that are in Project Insights. Or what you can do is you can go to Import Settings over here, and you can import settings from another project that you've already set up. So you don't have to go and remap every single time you create a new project. You create one template project, you configure it, map all the fields that you need, and then you can just copy that and modify it as need be. In this case, this is our first project, so we're going to do the mapping. And for that, all that you do is you open the pick list, and you'll see it'll only have the field that the fields that come from your specific project. And in this case, I'm going to look for the asset for the project ID. And you can map multiple fields like this to one field in Project Insights. Under the doc type, and you'll see it's basically as simple as this. When you're finished with your mapping, and you'll see there's a whole lot of fields that you can go and do your mapping, etc. All that you do is you save your changes. We're going to carry on configuration. So some of the options that you'll have is there's a whole lot of data that's going to come from the ProjectWise setup. Under the filter out data, what you can do there is you can specify specific data that you don't want to see in the dashboard. It could be empty fields or anything like that. You can also refine values. So from the values that are going to come through, you can also go and refine that to make sure that you only get the data that you want. And then under the deliverables management settings, this is where you're going to go and set up things like extract unique numbers so that it basically doesn't show you the extension. It'll show it to you like that. And you can go and set up a whole lot of additional things. Other settings, you can go and set up your tabs, delete custom tabs, set up your discipline lanes, etc. And when you've done all of this, when you go back to your dashboard, you will start seeing information flowing through from the ProjectWise system into this as soon as there is information that's going to come through. The first thing that's going to happen is it's going to process all the configuration that you've set up, and then if there is already data in the dashboards that can be displayed, the next time you refresh, it will then automatically start displaying that. And that is how you prepare your ProjectWise environment to utilize project insights. Thank you very much for joining. This ends the session, and we'll now open up for any questions.